What is going on, and welcome back into Byerly Studios, everybody, for the final session of the Austin Powers Mojo Tumbler. Now, as you can see, I have the tumbler sitting beside me right here, kind of in the background, hard to see. This is the final video. Now, in this video, we're just going to apply a few last details, mainly epoxy work, just to give it that really nice protective layer that you would expect from an epoxy tumbler creation. That way it lasts a long time. Now, this is a trophy tumbler, so although you can drink from it, and you could if you want to, it's more so of an item that you would sit up on your shelf and just have displayed. Now, for me, in my situation, until or if this ever sells, it will be sitting up on my display shelf, and it will be linked to an Apple plug, so that way when I say Byerly Studio on, Alexa, Byerly Studio on. There it goes. As you can see, the lights do come on. Now, we'll loop back around to that in a minute when we get to the Glamour Shot portion of the video. So hang tight. What we're going to do is we're going to run into the epoxy work here, and we'll be able to see the two-part epoxy from Flynn's sister. Now, I am an affiliate of them, and I'll reiterate this in a little bit. You can go to the description below, hit the link, and you'll be able to use my affiliate code, and you give me a kickback. And that is B Studios. B Studios is my code. And then you get 10% off your entire order, and they have great bundles. You can check out some of the other videos on my YouTube channel under the Flynn Sister Epoxy playlist, just to get an idea like the consistency and the kind of quality that you get out of that epoxy brand. It's absolutely amazing. They're not my only affiliate. I'm working on another affiliate now, looking forward to creating some new projects with them. But that's not for this video. We'll get to that later. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get to this video and get some epoxy on this awesome tumbler.
All right, you guys, let's jump into the content here. Now, as you can see, we already have this pretty much really well and made here. Now, what we need now is really a good, thorough epoxy layer. But before we do that, there's some little small details that I would like to fine tune. I want to make it to where like it looks like there's a kind of a rubber gasket between the metal housing and the actual like glass surface finish of the actual Mojo canister. So to do this, I'm going to try to use a Puffy paint, and it's going to be a pretty cool application. As long as I don't go crazy with it, I think will be a pretty cool looking thing. So what we're going to do here is I'm going to try to keep this very nice and thin and uniform as I go around the seams. It's really not necessary for me to do this, but I just thought it'd be kind of cool to add this in, to make it feel like the canister did have some kind of gaskets in place, maybe to relieve the pressure between the glass below the metal and the actual metal housing itself. Just some small things that kind of added characteristics to it. I also don't believe that I'm going to age this metal very much. I think I'm going to like leave it nice and shiny. And the reason for which, I think that when I get the whole thing completely finished and epoxied out, I think that the glowing LEDs are really going to accent the shimmering shine of the sterling silver metal that we have created. So here we are going around the outside edges. Now this actually proved to be a little bit more difficult than I originally anticipated. And I tried to lay this on pretty thick, and it almost kind of like blends itself out quite a bit more than I had really wanted it to, but it still gives the effect that I want. I expected the rubber look that it has now to be consistent and to stay. And like I said, it does distribute a little bit, so it kind of flattens itself out a little bit on the turner as this dries over the next night here. I did get a little bit of messy like spillage there, and I do have to come back with a paper towel and clean this up a few times, just trying to clean things up, make it look nice and tidy. I don't want to make it look like it's just messy and all over the place. So we're going to go ahead and clean that up a little bit there, and then we'll continue this process all the way around the tumbler. Now you can also see that the LEDs right there in the left-hand lower corner are still dulled out. We have not gone over those with the final layer of epoxy. When I do so, they will come back to life. So the shine is going to come back to those, and they're going to get a nice, really thick layer of epoxy there. So it's a pretty cool effect here. The underlying epoxy swirl that we made is still very vibrant. The drips look very cool. And as you can see, I do have that Puffy paint in the upper gaskets as well. So that looks very cool. He's going up the side there. You can see it's distributing itself a little bit, so it's kind of blending out a little bit along the interior of that glass, as it were. I'm still okay with that. It's not necessarily a bad thing, but it's just not the way I'd originally intended. I'm gonna go ahead and go around the actual power adapter here as well, just to give that like a nice little round little gasket there, and that actually blends in quite well to where it's almost not even visible at all when it's all said and done. So this is where we are at this point. We're going to let this dry up now, and then we can move on to the next stage here, which is going to actually be epoxy work. So we're going to begin with just some leftover epoxy that I had from a Toxic Waste custom tumbler that I had made. Another awesome YouTuber was able to get that. That is Tox Tribe here on YouTube. They are a gaming channel, kind of a all around gaming channel type of thing. They do a lot of things. Mostly they do like virtual gaming and things like that. So very cool. And I used a little bit of excess there just to kind of give this a nice little finger rub of epoxy here. And we will be using a Flynn Sister Fast Set epoxy here. Again, this is just a small amount here, not much at all, and we're just giving it a nice layer to where it won't drip significantly. And we're just going to let this set overnight. It is fast set, so we don't have to worry about it just like continuously draining down onto the aluminum pan here. And just remember, I am an affiliate of Flynn Sister Epoxy. It is an absolute amazing grade of epoxy. It gives great, full, thick coverage, and it is much thicker than the majority of the other brands that I have tried before. These bottles are absolutely flowery and beautiful and so girly for the studio that they're in here now, but the epoxy is absolutely amazing. Now here we are, we're going to go ahead and do the same thing, and we're going to actually coat the entire tumbler. Now I actually probably put about an entire 2 or almost 3 coats on this tumbler just to give it a really thick, shimmering glass-like effect, even over the metal. I just loved how it looked, and I just kept going with it until I could get full coverage. I had a few places that it kind of pulled away from around the actual metal bands, and I wanted to fix that there. The original coat here, I do have a few places around the bands, the metallic bands, that kind of pulled away, leaving some of that paint accessible to the air there, and I did want to repair that, so I did go over it again naturally with the second layer. I also had some pulling and puddling up near the LEDs, and like I said just a moment ago, we want to make sure that has a good bond between the two items, so that way if it is dropped or something, those LED bulbs don't just naturally just pop off there. So because I want those to be uniformly covered in epoxy, I do have to go over those again with that second layer, definitely the second layer, and then a little bit of a third layer just for touch up. But as you can see, this epoxy here is going on very easily, and it is super great to work with. This is not a fast set, this is a regular set epoxy here from Flynn Sister. Again, to reiterate, I am an affiliate of them. You can find their link below if you'd like to just check out some of their items there. They sell rhinestones, they sell vinyl packages, they sell epoxy, which is my most important thing here, and is probably one of the only things that I use from their website. But they are a great company, great brand, and I've known their company for quite a long time through TikTok and tumbler making in general. You can find my code. It is B Studios. Again, B Studios for Flynn Sister Epoxy. So as you can see here now, this is just kind of going back to real time now as it spins just naturally here, just so you can get an idea how long it takes me to kind of get things on here. My finger also, I'm always moving fast, you guys, so you'll notice that I'm not really going slow in any way, even if it is regular set epoxy. And we are going to hit that with a heat gun as well as a torch to make sure we kind of get any micro bubbles. Because we're going over so many right angles and the kind of flat edges, we do tend to get a lot of pulling there when you're making a 3D tumbler like this. So you want to make sure that you kind of try to heat that epoxy up in the grooves and the corners, so that way you can kind of pop any of those micro bubbles. Now, with a situation like this, I try not to use fast set because you can kind of get pulling in the bubbles, and it sets up so fast that those bubbles don't have time to rise. So use a regular set if you can on items like this where it has a lot of dimension to them. Here you can see I'm hitting it with the UV light. You can really see the drips, and the background mojo, my mojo, is glowing beautifully. So here it is after the first layer here. It looks absolutely phenomenal. Look at the glare as that light, the halo light, kind of cascades across the surface of that epoxy. What an amazing product. Now, as you can see, the gasket kind of gave like a cool effect there. Now, I did get some pulling, like I stated before, and those will just require an additional layer, which is no problem whatsoever. Got a little divot there, or a little fisheye. I'll fix that, no problem at all. And then, as you can see, it is giving a nice glass-like effect, and that's what I really wanted. I was really thinking about putting like a label on here with my name saying Mojo extracted this date. I just kind of decided to leave it kind of nice and beautiful instead of kind of aging it out like I was originally intending to do. And I really like the overall effect. Now I do have to do a little bit of trimming on the topper that I had created to get that to apply down to the tumbler lid the way that I really had originally sculpted it. But that's not a problem whatsoever. I'm really kind of excited with how it looks. Here's that next layer, and it's more so of a touch-up paint, so I'm really just kind of being fine-tuned on where I apply this, just to kind of fill in any kind of gaps and spaces. Really going around the bottoms of those bulbs again, and I really do, I'll be honest with you guys, I really do apply a little bit more here than I had anticipated around the bottom of the bulbs, but it really does create a nice bond, and as long as they all look the same all the way across the upper housing, I'm cool with that. And this is really going to kind of fine tune and finish up this project, you guys. I'm so glad that I was able to work with Dimensional Drinks, and they were able to send me a big box of these awesome 3D prints for these tumblers, and I look forward to rolling into the next tumbler here. I will probably take a poll on TikTok to see which project will be the next one that we roll into. I know that this one probably took a little bit longer than anticipated. I was sick and had a lot of things going on in the studio for customers and things like that, and these fun projects sometimes take a side seat while I get my customers taken care of. If you would like any of my items, make sure you visit my Etsy shop. I'm always available for custom orders at all times, and sometimes your item will show up on a YouTube video. Hit that with a heat gun there, and we'll go ahead and finish up with Glamour Shots.
Guys, so that's the final form right there, and we're going to go into the Glamour Shots in just a few moments. Before I get to that, though, look how amazing that Flynn sister epoxy turned out. When we used regular, we didn't use fast set for this project just because of all the right angles that I stated earlier. But as you can see, it turned out great. It has a wonderful consistency.
And here we are, you guys. What an absolute amazing tumbler here. Now, as we kind of roll through some B clips here of the actual tumbler Glamour Shots, you can see that the LED glows significantly, look absolutely amazing. Make sure you look at how that topper is sitting down on there and the drips line up perfectly, as well as that custom created syringe straw that we had made. Now that is an acrylic straw, plastic straw, and we used epoxy drips and paint to make that a metal textured topper, which is pretty cool. You can also see at the bottom is that nice ringed effect, so it kind of gives a nice kind of bottom see-through effect. And just remember now that we made that out of DOS air dry clay. We also made the actual housing out of, yes, you guessed it, Sculpey Original, and we used liquid clay to kind of fill in the gaps and make it look like one continuous piece. Look at those LED bulbs. We do kind of see the actual drilled holes there, but for the most part, it's really looking great, guys, and the glow on my shelf is significant. Here it is in the dark on my shelf in my workstation here. You can see that it really does brighten up the area, and I will put this on a Apple plug, so that way when I say studio on, all of the LEDs on my shelves for all my projects will come on, and then including this one will glow significantly. I really do hope you enjoyed my interpretation of Austin Powers Mojo Tumbler.
Now, how awesome are those Glamour Shots, you guys? Now, I've had this overall project design, the Austin Powers Mojo Tumbler, in my mind for a very long time. And the overall project really just fell into my playlist here in the studio of things I want to do, because Dimensional Drinks really just sent me a box of Happy Meal of some of their designs to try out. Now, of course, some of my designs take an extremely long time to create just because there's so many steps, and I love sharing those steps with you guys. That way you can enjoy the process, or if you want to see a specific thing in the process, you can just click that one video and watch it. Whereas some people may post the entire video really chopped up, really shrunk down. And I'm not saying that I won't ever do that, but I like being able to show you the entire playlist, the entire process, so you can take that one little piece that you learn and go apply it to your own project. Now, the Flynn Sister epoxy that we used in this video is an affiliate, B Studios, if you want to use the link in the description to get your own epoxy. Now, you can see if you rewind in some of those Glamour Shots, you can really see the halo light above us glistening off that clear coat layer. It turned out absolutely spectacular, and we used regular set so that the air bubbles had the opportunity to rise to the surface. Now look how awesome this thing turned out to be. We went through so many process videos, and just to summarize some of them. So we did receive the rings, the top, middle, and then the bottom band from Dimensional Drinks. We used a DOS air dry clay to create a ring around the bottom, just kind of make it a canister-like shape. We did leave a opening in the bottom, as well as an opening on the sides for the actual Mojo, my Mojo, to be visible from the outside edges. We didn't want to cover that up completely because this is the portion that you would see if it was like extracted from me, right? Kind of like in the thumbnail video. where it's like, funny, right? So that's where we got those from. Now, you can get those from dimensionaldrinks.com. I will link their page below as well, so if you want to check out some of the 3D prints for tumblers, you can do so. Now, I will say that these rings are not designed for 20-ounce tumblers, so I did have to do a little bit of workage to get them to fit onto this tumbler. In doing so, I created the actual swirl effect before I applied my rings. Now, I also created a band out of Sculpey Original Clay, oven baked clay, that went from top band to bottom band and created a spine down the actual tumbler. This gives us the opportunity to actually mount the housing itself. Now, just remember that this was baked separate from the actual tumbler itself. So we created a weld line between the two seams so that that metal is visible, and it took a little bit of the wash that we used from the outside stainless steel or sterling silver metal finish. But it really gave a great effect there. We also came in later and we created this housing here. Now, this was this full-on video, and we had a lot of fun with this. We started by creating actual flat, carved, and sculpted panels. 1, 2, 3, 4 panels in total. And then what we did is we baked those on a flat surface. Then we attached these all together with adhesive. And then what we did is we drilled the holes for the 4 lights. And I also created a washer style effect out of Sculpey Original, baked that, and that is actually underneath each LED. We also created that on the back right there where the actual female end of the power set comes in. And inside this, what we have is we have 9 to 12 volt LEDs. We have 2 blues, an orange, and a red. And when we light those up, they brilliantly light up. I also created these LEDs in a very difficult way, but it was very fun and educational, and I think that people enjoyed watching it. I hope they did. To create these LEDs, what I did is I made a mold out of Sculpey Original, and I made that mold around a glitter bottle lid that I had up here on my shelf. I just used what I had nearby. And then what we used is Flynn's sister, a 2-part epoxy to pour into those molds. After defleshing those molds, that was very difficult in itself. I had to use the X-Acto knife and a lot of sanding and things. It's probably definitely not a process I would do again. Next time I'll just order a mold making kit and I'll just have that on hand so I can make these molds a little bit more professional, make them a little bit sharper. That way they're not so sanded smooth. Now, it's not a big deal because I did go over these again with epoxy, and you can see they really do have a great shine to them, as you can see the light reflecting off them. So they really do look uniform and they look really cool. And that epoxy just really brings the luster back to that outside edges, and it applies a strong like bond to each LED. So I don't have to worry about them coming up out of there. We did create an actual LED set to go in here that is a rat tail splice to the actual female connector here. You can see that in its own individual video. It's very fun. I love working with the soldering setup that I have behind me, and being able to break that out and do some LEDs is absolutely fun. Once we got done with that, we actually created like a gasket-like effect out of puffy paint. That's very simple, very easy, and then we did that in this video. As well as epoxying the actual topper itself. That is removable, and we've made that so that the actual drips line up perfectly and create just a nice locking effect. The straw is also removable, and you can put your own straw in the top if you wanted to display something different, or if you wanted to make a smaller syringe so that it would fit on a shelf. As you can see here, we do have the a female end of the 5.5 power adapter there, so you can put it on your shelf. And then you can plug it in as said, just like that. Now, I'm going to get a right angle one of these. I just don't have one on hand right now. And I really wanted to sum up this video without having to wait for that. But at any point in time, you can go ahead and say, Alexa, studio on. Alexa, studio on. Ha! There she goes. Sometimes she doesn't listen to us, right? But as you can see, look how great that looks. Now, it's not just that, you guys. It also has a glow effect. So if I were to go ahead and pull out my UV light, as you can see here, I'll pull that out there. You can see it really does have a nice glow effect there. Now, this tumbler would have been gorgeous in itself by itself, but anytime I have a UV light out, or if I have like a black light out in this room at any time, or if I'm just using a bright light from the outside window there, and then I turn off the lights at night, this could potentially glow on my shelf. So it's very cool, it's very awesome, and I really have enjoyed making this project. I just think that the glow is an extra cool effect, and I really enjoyed showcasing that when I made the swirl. I really do hope you guys really enjoyed the overall creation of this project, and I really look forward to the next project that we have coming out. Now, if you haven't subscribed and liked my channel here on YouTube, make sure you do so. I look forward to growing here on YouTube, and this is my main focus for social media creation. Not only is this a forum for me to save the projects for future reference in an archival format, but it also allows me to share some of the projects, and it holds me accountable to kind of complete some of these projects where sometimes I do a project halfway, it sits on my shelf. This holds me more accountable because I want to finish out the playlist, and I want to finish it for you guys. And I really do hope you guys enjoy the overall process and the time and effort that I put into some of these videos. Now, at any point, if you want to make a purchase from me, make sure you hop over to Etsy, search John Byerly Art Studio, and you would be able to find any of my artwork on there. If you want a custom creation, just let me know, and we can talk that out. Of course, depending on how intense it is, depends on the range of the pricing. However, I'm always here for new commissions, and I look forward to challenging myself. Of course, if you give me any suggestions, I take it into my own artistic creation, and I take it from there. But we can create all sorts of fun projects, and some of those have been featured here on YouTube. So if you do purchase something substantial from me, and it does take me months to create it, sometimes, and more than often not, it would end up in its own playlist here on YouTube for everybody to enjoy. And of course, you get your own special mention. So again, I appreciate you. I appreciate you watching my content. Make sure you subscribe. Make sure you like. And let's go ahead and get into the next overall project.